everybody, Dacob here. Welcome back to the Fashion Bunker. Today we shall be reviewing an ocean of zebra. Dolce Gabbana by... The perfume, yes, is called by Dolce Gabbana. I would say release date 1997, sometimes stated as 1998, or even in some cases 1999. But most likely 1997, and this is one of the first batches that I got soon the fragrance came out in 50 ml. Unfortunately in 50 ml because, well, now it's discontinued, it doesn't exist anymore, and whatever you find is super expensive. Had I purchased 100 ml, I would be better off because I do really like this juice. Now, there's a bit of an abstraction going on here in our background today. I am using... Let's take the perfume away again. This is a silk shirt by Gianni Versace, actually Donatella Versace. This is somewhere around spring, summer, I think spring, summer 2011 or 2010. One of my favorite Versace shirts that I wear. I have purposefully positioned, I know this is already scandalous to have a Versace shirt with a Dolce Gabbana product, but oh well, that it is what it is. I'm doing it for a reason. The reason is this. This perfume is discontinued, and I wanted to place it on this abstract. This is actually op art, not animal print. This is not a zebra print. It's an optical illusion. It's full of symmetry and asymmetry. I wanted the perfume to almost disappear within this background, camouflage itself, because I will also not just be reviewing this perfume, but I will also be touching base on the characteristics and the facts that have been plaguing the perfume world these past years, also over a decade by now, of discontinuations. And so a lot of these fragrances just kind of blend in with the rest of the scenario and they just kind of disappear. So they're there because we have a memory of them, but they're gone because the background just absorbs them and you don't really know that they're there anymore. So the only way you can find out about them is either by accident, you stumble upon them on some secondhand websites, some really old perfumeries that still have some stock left, or through crazy reviews like mine. Let's spray on by Dolce Gabbana. So I've explained a little bit of all of the reasons behind my setup today. Oh, I love this smell so much. It's the end of the 90s. Pretty ugly solution to the lid. It's a metal lid. It's a metal container covering plastic. Very cheap, almost rubbery type of plastic in there, but it's not rubbery. It's hard plastic, but it has a mattified finish. You have the glass bottle contained inside a metal container, reminiscent of the style that we have for Rive Gauche from Yves Saint Laurent, but Rive Gauche is completely metal. This metal is containing a plastic container, and inside the plastic container, you see the plastic there between the metal and the glass. Inside the plastic container is the glass container, the 50 milliliter container. I still have half of it full, 25 ml are still in there. This is Euroitalia. Euroitalia is the distributor and maker of by Dolce Gabbana. Euroitalia is no longer making and distributing the Dolce Gabbana fragrances. This is also the reason why you will not be finding the old school formulation of the first Dolce Gabbana Pour Homme fragrance, also made in Italy, also made by Euroitalia. It has passed since then to Procter & Gamble. Procter & Gamble became Coty. Dolce Gabbana then left Coty and are now with Prestige International. They come close to imitating, copying the scent. The scent first was done in Italy, then in Germany, the UK, and now it's done in France. It's still not what it used to be. And we're going to get to that as well. But let's first smell the top notes here. Oh my gosh, aren't they delicious? This is a very special fragrance because it mixes several concepts into one. First of all, it disrupts the notion that we have of citrusy notes in the opening. Now, I know this one is listed to also have some, but what is fascinating here, in the top notes, they list walnut. And what is the other note that they list? Pepper and walnut, basically. And then they overturn what we had in their first release, which is Dolce & Gabbana Pour Homme. I also have the 70. This is 125 milliliter. This is a 75 ml. Got a couple of drops left in there as well. And this one is again disappearing, but there it is. You can see it if you really look for it. This one disappears too because there's less liquid in it, so it kind of assumes the camouflage of the background in it. Lavender is in the top notes here. Here, the lavender slides into the second position. So we have lavender in the middle notes together with Artemisia over there. Artemisia also being quite green. And then we have in the base notes tobacco, the guaiac or guaiac wood, amber, sandalwood, and leather. Sandalwood and leather are the key words here. I would say sandalwood, leather, walnut, and hints of lavender are our key words in this fragrance. By Dolce & Gabbana is a fragrance that has a very strong character. So let's take the Pour Homme out of the equation for a second. Again, I say perfumes are all unisex. They all have a unisex nature to them. Anybody can wear them. It just has to match your skin chemistry. So a woman can wear this one, a guy can wear this one. But however, we are in the late 90s here, so you have to understand the conceptuality of this fragrance. The smell of it is very determined and soft at the same time. Now, who has experienced the Dolce & Gabbana fashion, in particular, the first half, and also kind of fading out towards the end? 1997 being one of their last really cool collections. But so from 1992 in particular, all the way to 1997, Dolce & Gabbana represented a very special type of male style within their male collections. Their man was quite self-absorbed, very much in love with himself, very much aware of the fact that he is very handsome and sexually very active. The man was also very well aware of his presence in society, also ready to flirt his way through any situation. At the same time, the man came from an Italian family, from a traditional type of family. The man could have been living with his mother until his late 30s. The man was protected by women, was pampered by them, was taken care by them. The man would always have a cooked meal on the table when he would come home after having an aperitivo with his friends in some piazza somewhere in some bigger or smaller city of Italy. And then also the man is a particular type of man from the south of Italy, sun-kissed, enjoying warmer temperatures and climates, dressing up, always very clean and fresh, but with a notion of sensuality constantly present. And it's a man that doesn't have to really struggle too much to flirt his way through to any girl or boy, woman or man. It's a type of man that has it somehow easy in that respect. A lot of these opportunities come his way. And he ends up being spoiled. He gets to choose whether or not he wants somebody or something. So much so that these occasions and opportunities arise on a daily basis that not only is he spoiled rotten in terms of just being able to choose whatever he wants, but he has had it all already. So he has come to a point where, not that he's becoming very picky, but he's just not that interested anymore. And this is a very fascinating concept to me. Somebody who has really been through it all, who has had it all, and who just is not really that controlled by his, and here we get to the point, or her basic instincts. So by Dolce & Gabbana represents all that to me in the smell. Already from the top notes, you get that sense of this fragrance not really caring too much. It's at a good place. It's in the soft spot. It's in the best place it can be. It's surrounded by people that love it. It's surrounded by family members that love it. The mom is still alive, grandmother is still alive, the aunts are still alive, they always cuddle this person, they always take care of this person. This person really doesn't need anything. This person is just enjoying life, but on a very modest way, not really looking forward to traveling all over the world on adventures. We're talking the simple, comfortable life, even maybe close to the countryside, just having that safe routine every day of having, you know, the good meal in the morning, meeting up with friends, or doing whatever work needs to be done, but not even having a real 9 to 5 or whatever type of job because the family is already set up. Everything is minimal. We're not talking riches here. We're just talking the simple life that is safe. And that's what this fragrance gives me. It gives me a certain safety and a certain laziness that particular types of scenarios only within Europe could, in the late 90s and throughout the entire 90s, deliver. Nowadays, it's a bit different. We're struggling economically and politically. There's a lot of disruption going on. So the situation has changed radically. And perhaps for the best, this fragrance doesn't exist anymore because no other perfume really smells this way. No other perfume conveys that sort of peace. A lazy, hazy peace, which we can reminisce in. Sometimes it can get really annoying for a lot of people. I mean, I'm the type of person who would have to escape from that scenario. I would have to rush off to the city and spend at least some time on cement and feel like I'm separated from nature, even though I adore nature and love nature. Then there are moments when I want to really escape into nature. But even then, it's not the countryside I'm craving. It's more the deep woods and the forests and absence of other humans around me that I crave. This one is all about humans surrounding you in a safe environment, comfortable, and comforting zone. So the smell, it envelops you. It has a slight acidy edginess to the softness of the sandalwood in particular. And that acidy tone is the pepper and the artemisia together. They kind of combined create a hazy... By acidy, I don't by any means mean that it is a negative smell. I don't mean that it doesn't smell good. It's acidy in the way of being... It makes you aware of its presence. So if it were only sandalwood that we're dealing with here, it would kind of land flat. Because sandalwood has... I would almost define it as a pH neutral type of smell. Meaning there are no bumps in the road. It's linear. Acidity to me is always delineated visually as spikes. The more acidic a smell is and the higher and pointier the spikes are. In this case, we have the linear sandalwood base and the delicate acidity of pepper artemisia, which don't deliver these spikes, but rather just, you know, they just flow a little bit softer. So they elevate us from that sandalwood base, but they still don't reach those unattractive heights of acidity like some fragrances can. This one stays in that almost cotton ball-y haze of a feeling, of a smell. And hence, that's why I also mentioned prior the lazy / hazy feeling and vibe of this fragrance, as if you would be sitting in this bar somewhere in a piazza, in a warm piazza in Italy, drinking your aperitivo, you know, spritz with Aperol and nibbling on your little chips or little olives while people pass by and you're just chilling, you know, getting ready to go back home and have dinner with your family. That's the idea. When the lavender in the mid-notes shows itself more is when we get literally just a postcard, nothing more, not a letter, nothing big, just a simple postcard from this guy over here, or this lady. Again, to me, all of them are unisex, and I will never stress enough to repeat this, because I know if I put up a review of this case, of this sort, of this nature with these fragrances, a lot of guys will be watching, and then it's important for you guys to learn that you should not be afraid to experiment with emotions and feelings and smells. And there is no such thing as a fragrance only for women or only for men. This is all brand marketing illusions. This is all brand marketing strategies to hype prices artificially, to create markets, to facilitate their sales. So if you want to fall victim to that and be a victim of consumer society, then be my guest. Separate everything. But otherwise, if you stick with me and with my channel and my reviews, that means that you are already one step further away from the chains of consumer burdens, and you're more free to experiment with what really smells good on your skin, rather than not allowing something that is labeled as opposite gender targeted to even touch your skin. That's ridiculous. If it were that way, then for all the heterosexual people out there, you should also never allow yourself to be touched by anybody of the opposite gender. Think about that. The lavender and the mid notes here really, because lavender here is in the top notes, and this is the first fragrance that they made, this one coming in second place. This one sends a postcard back to buy. And it very shyly just says, hello, nice to have met you last summer, really great, missing you here on the shores of Sicily, the famous advertisement campaign, one of the most beautiful ads ever made for a fragrance is the Dolce Gabbana POUR HOMME, with Monica Bellucci in it, a very young Monica Bellucci, and the guy who is infatuated by her, he is a hunter of octopi. So he has this octopus which he kind of bashes against the rocks. I mean, it's cruel, but that's the way they prepare them. Whoever eats fish or ever ate an octopus, that's usually how they do it. And they rub them against the rocks until the tentacles don't twirl. And when the octopus starts foaming, they're ready to be sold. So this guy ends up biting the octopus from the lust that he has for her. So that's the Sicilian shore. It could even be Stromboli in that case, because we're talking that sort of heat. That's the lavender. We're not in Sicily anymore with this one. The lavender is far away. It's many, 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 many miles away. And it sends a postcard. And the lavender just says hi and goodbye again. Now, since both of these fragrances were made by Euroitalia, they have the same ingredients when it comes to using lavender. They're playing with the same ingredients. So, of course, we have a reminiscence of it. Nowadays, it's a different lavender. And the Dolce Gabbana POUR HOMME that you can find in stores made by Prestige is similar, but not the same. So throughout, the entire kind of ingredients are just slightly off. So we have whichever perfumer of Prestige was trying to remake the original formulation, they had to work with their own ingredients. They couldn't use some of the ingredients that are only available to Euroitalia, but they had to copy them. And this brings me to what I mentioned at the beginning of the video, to explain a little bit the concept of this disappearing. And I've mentioned this in other videos. Dolce Gabbana state that allegedly, the reason behind why they discontinued buy is because a lot of the ingredients originally used to make this fragrance are no longer available, or no longer accepted or tolerated or even legal. By legal, I don't mean that they were bad for you. Every perfume is technically bad for you. These are all chemicals that, I mean, legislations aren't very clear on it, but there's a lot of ingredients comprised in many fragrances that are just not good for our health, But then again, I also always say even oxygen, with every time you inhale oxygen, it frees a lot of free radicals and it kills a lot of cells in your body. So we are doomed to perish either way. Just enjoy life as long as it lasts with the products that you have around you, surrounding you, that you love. So, but this is allegedly the reason why they discontinued it. I believe what is more the case is that, what usually happens when, this depends on the contract that these fragrance houses have with the perfume distributors or makers, they usually, the first fragrances that they make, there's a different type of ownership. If I were, depending on the contract you make, but usually you make the contract that you can take the fragrance with you. If you leave that distribution, you can go somewhere else. Some of the ingredients within the fragrance are not yours anymore. You're going to have to copy them, simulate them to recreate the fragrance again. But as the collaboration with the distribution continues and new fragrances come out on the market, for example, this one that came out later, might be that most of the ingredients in here you do not have the rights on if you go away from that distributor. So it could be that the ingredients are still, in fact, somehow available to create by Dolce & Gabbana, but since Dolce & Gabbana have left first to Procter & Gamble, which turned to Coty, then they left to Prestige, it might be that they just don't have the rights to use certain patented and copywritten molecules, chemical components that Euroitalia has ownership over, and they don't have the rights to take them with them to Prestige, let's say, to recreate by. Which is a pity. Now, greed plays a role in this because a lot of these big brands like Dolce & Gabbana, they just don't want to pay that money to get the rights to certain ingredients, but also sometimes the distributors, like Euroitalia in this case, could also say, well, no, come back to us if you want this fragrance, otherwise we're not going to give it to you. A lot of, and this is all alleged, of course, a lot of these speculative reasonings can be behind a lot of the decisions made whether or not to continue with the fragrance or to continue with the fragrance and butcher it completely, as was the case with the 80s Fendi. When it was brought back a couple of years back, it's not Fendi anymore. It's a totally different fragrance. This one is really beautiful the way it is. In a way, I'm happy that they didn't keep it. I mean, if the only alternative to discontinuation of this one were to keep it but butcher it to a degree where you can't recognize it anymore, then I prefer that it just be gone. I find that much more honest. I find it much more direct. I mean, of course, if you write Dolce & Gabbana, ask them for the real reasons why they discontinued it, they're probably going to give you some public relations, plausible reasoning, really very corporate type of structured letter. They're never really going to, they're not even obliged to. So by law, they don't have to tell you the truth anyway. So they're going to find some reasons why they did what they did, but they're never going to really tell you the truth. They don't have to. They might, but they don't have to. So I prefer that kind of, this by accident turned out to be honesty in terms of they discontinued it rather than keeping it but butchering it. The disappearance of perfumes is a natural thing, as is natural that they evaporate on your skin as you're using them. So I just found it really fitting to allow this one to disappear in this landscape as the dry down is kicking in. It turns a little bit more acidy. Now again, we're still in that, you know, the wave, how the acids kind of, they're not spiking and they're not so aggressive, but they're there. So as it dries down, as warm as it is, it maintains that freshness through that illusion of the slight acidity. Very pleasant on the skin, very cocooned. It's a very, for the people that have lived in the 90s, they might have felt it too, a certain type of cocooned feeling. Internet was still not really there. Things took time to travel from continent to continent. Fashions took time. You would have to read the glossy fashion magazines to discover the new trends. There was no quick Google search. There was no live from the catwalk live stream of a fashion show where you get to see it before a reporter even had the chance to write about it. None of that was possible in the 90s. Everything took time. And that time was an element which often imbued itself in the concept of fragrances, because certain perfumes had a different type of emotion attached to them as they would today. Today, fragrances have to be more fleeting, quicker. The top notes have to, in the best case scenario, the top notes have to already sell the fragrance. There's no time to wait for the base notes, the dry down to hit in. And it has to be pleasant. The fragrance is not supposed to offend anybody. You're supposed to be able to wear it on the go, in the train, in the cab, at work, in school, at the gym, at home. and nobody's supposed to be offended because we do live in a politically correct society. The 90s were less politically correct, so there was still more character in the air. And because everything traveled, everything needed its time to travel, everything also had more time to settle in and anchor itself to what we can today call a concept of pop culture. That's why we can also see certain types of music and songs that we still remember or that we get to know, even though we were younger, we were born or we were teenagers after the 90s. We still get a chance to feel as if certain songs have a bigger heft and weight to them than others. Just because, well, most of the songs, the famous songs and songwriters and pop singers in particular from the 80s and 90s, well, it took them more time also for the songs to spread through the world. Nowadays, you release a song in a day and the whole world knows about it. Everybody has already consumed it, devoured it, and in a week's time it's over. We're up on the next one already. We're listening to the next hit and then the next hit. So songs don't really have that time to land. Fragrances seem to also not have that time to land, but because the fragrance industry is so slow in terms of bigger brands need to invest many, in some cases, hundreds of millions of dollars or euro to launch a new fragrance. They just don't have that money to invest, or they don't want to invest because the the money that flows in after the fragrance has been launched, it's just not there. The numbers aren't as high to warrant such a release. That's why we're seeing a huge amount of flankers being released, because it's a very quick way to keep delivering something new, to fuel the market that is quicker and quicker and quicker. The consumer is getting faster and faster and faster, and social media is messing that up as well, making it even worse. So what we end up with is an ocean of flankers, one worse than the other, because quite frankly, if you really like the original fragrance, why do you need to mess with it and keep delivering slight variations on it? Because most of the time, it's just lack of creativity. It's just a marketing construct to save money and to exponentially profit from it as much as they can. So they milk that cow until there's no tomorrow. So it's not the way I work. It's not the way I envision fragrances, and that's why I'm not a big fan of flankers or reviewing flankers or trying flankers every couple of months. A new flanker of some. I mean, Opium just received another flanker, a polka dot bottle. I don't even know what it's called, and it's just from Yves Saint Laurent. You know, it's an endless. It's a vicious circle. It ain't gonna end well. Also because you keep watering down the concept of a fragrance by releasing the flankers, and ingredients just get bleaker and bleaker, cheaper and cheaper, more and more synthetic, and people get used to it. The consumer is like a cockroach. It's a beast that you can feed anything to it as long as you package something properly. And have you noticed that in these days, or in this day and age, packaging has become almost more important than the product? The packagings are stepping up their game. Bigger brands, now you don't get just the fragrance, you get the fragrance in a package, the package is in a box, the box is in a box, the box is wrapped in paper, the paper comes in a special bag, the bag gets a special ribbon. Oh my gosh, and then you keep opening it like those Russian dolls and you get nothing at the core of it. It's an evaporated dream. That's literally what it is most of the time. So we have to stop and really rewind our inner consumer clocks if we can, and try to detach ourselves from that need that we are infected with by brand marketing, to have to always jump on the bandwagon of every new release coming out. That's why I mentioned this in this particular video, because I miss that time when you had the time before dinner to sit with your friends in that bar, drink your aperitivo, chill, just enjoy the sunset, and smell deliciously. Hazy, slightly lazy, breathe, enjoy the time you're given, enjoy the time with people you like, not having a smartphone at your hand, not having anything to type on or tip at. Just look at each other in the eyes while you're talking to your friends or lovers or family or whatever at the table, or just enjoy the people passing by without that desperate need to always be on top of information and seeing what's the newest thing that's going to be launched, that's going to be released, that's going to be trendy. We tend to forget that we are the trend. We are constantly fed the concept of having to run after trends as being the correct thing to do, when in reality, most of the paid, very well paid by brands, trend hunters, they look at you, they look at what you're doing, then they feed it back to the brands, and then the brands repackage that in what I mentioned before, this beautifully packaged package, and then they sell it back to you as if you never knew it existed before, and they make you feel like you need something that actually you already were, even years before that product was launched on the market. So in that respect, by Dolce & Gabbana is even more so beautiful now that it's discontinued, because it reminds me of something that was, and something that was really beautiful, and something that doesn't need to be copied or recreated again. It's something that already was. It doesn't need anything more than itself. By Dolce & Gabbana, a review by Super D. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this review, please do thumb it up. It was a very conceptual one, but it warranted it. It merits. This fragrance makes me think of all of that. That's why the whole setup. Quickly, also longevity and projection. Projection, very decent, very elegant projection. It surrounds you with this soft cocoony cloud of warmth and presence. Slight acidity in a very good way with the flat sandalwood. Both of them work in your favor. And the lavender just keeps on sending postcards of clean freshness. But as all Dolce & Gabbana products, it also has a sexy tone. It can get very dirty if you want to, depending on how hard you sweat while you're wearing it. Puns are intended. And longevity on me could go even 8-9 hours, depending on how hard I go on with the spray and on which part of the body I spray it. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. If you like the video, thumb it up and let me know what you think about by Dolce & Gabbana, both the zebra version targeted to men, as it says here, man, or the leopard version, which is marketed to women. In the comment section down below. Don't forget to, if you wish, subscribe to my channel here on YouTube. I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I'm also on Patreon, superdacob all spelled together. And I would like to thank all my patrons for helping the channel grow and supporting me, who have already pledged. On Patreon, you get to see videos that you don't get to see on YouTube, or some of the videos hit Patreon first before they hit YouTube, and all of them are ad-free over there, as well as exclusive photos. Also, be sure to write me at askdacob@gmail.com if you wish to be featured with your voice in one of my next episodes of Ask Dacob, where you get to call in and ask me questions live or talk about any topic that interests you. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until I see you next time, never forget to never give up on love. Love you all. See you soon. Take care. Bye.